And still ahead, Bunting says Kartel has dedicated his skills to advancing an evil agenda. You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. Stay with us. Continuing the news, National Security Minister Peter Bunting says convicted dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel has dedicated his skills to advancing an evil agenda. Minister Bunting says the entertainer has had a reprehensible impact on popular Jamaican culture. The security minister attacked Kartel yesterday while giving a lecture at the Jamaica Theological Seminary in St. Andrew. Abka Fitz-Henley reports.
Bunting says the boss of the Portmore-based Gaza Empire is the poster child of what's bad about Jamaican popular culture. But he says he's not blaming Kartel for crime in Jamaica.
I don't want to make it all about Kartel, because Kartel, to my mind, is just the principal exponent of the negative aspect of our popular culture, or the negative elements. He is the poster child of what I consider to be the negative elements in our popular culture.
The National Security Minister says Kartel, also known as the World Boss, has dedicated his talents to evil.
His songs and his music advocate violence, it advocates disrespect for women, it advocates skin bleaching, so it essentially devalues our whole identity as a people. I mean, there's hardly anything positive that you can find, except that he's very clever, you know. So we have to acknowledge that he's very clever, he's very talented, but he has put that talent entirely in the service of evil, in my opinion.
Minister Bunting took a jab at Kartel and his attorney's recent protestation that he's prejudicing the entertainer's court case as it relates to his appeal. He again blasted Vybz Kartel for describing the dangerous lottery scam as reparations.
Now, as you can see, that is a very powerful piece of antisocial propaganda, and I've stopped using it because I didn't want to be any further accused of trying to prejudice the Kartel trial. But since the trial is over, I suppose I'll now be accused of trying to prejudice the appeal.
Abka Fitz-Henley for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, lawyers for convicted dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel have filed documents in the Supreme Court formally serving notice of his intention to appeal his murder conviction. Last month, Kartel, Sean Storm, Andre St. John and Kahira Jones were found guilty of murdering Clive Lizard Williams in August 2011. They were sentenced to life in prison at hard labor. Formal notice of the intention to appeal the life sentences handed down to the four men was filed on their behalf yesterday. The application outlines unfair trial, lack of evidence, misidentification by witnesses, and miscarriage of justice as the grounds on which Kartel and his fellow murder convicts will be asking the court to grant them freedom.
In other news now, National Security Minister Peter Bunting says Jamaica is at war with approximately 300 gangs that are actively recruiting children to carry out their murderous activities. The Security Minister was delivering a lecture at a seminar at the Jamaica Theological Seminary in St. Andrew yesterday afternoon. Antoinette Shakespeare Dubidad reports.
Minister Bunting's presentation was entitled Divine Intervention from Quant to Kartel. Bunting told his audience that the security forces are responding to evidence that an increasing number of children are being engaged by criminals.
Jamaica is fighting a war. Let's not put on any rose-colored glasses around this. We have 250 to 300 gangs in Jamaica that recruit school children. And I'm just going to show you 3 photographs. These were taken off the phones of one gang member. This is a student in a St. Catherine High School who is also a gang member and has an AK-47 in his hand. These are 2 other teenagers. You notice each of them slinging 2 M16 rifles, and they're actually reenacting the execution of a victim.
The security minister says the gangs recruiting children are heavily armed. He says there are possibly over 3,000 high-powered weapons in the hands of criminal gangs across Jamaica.
Part of their modus operandi, and it's not unique to Jamaica organized crime, by the way, it's done worldwide, is they actively recruit children. So we have, at any given time, 250 to 300 active gangs in Jamaica. From the pictures on that cell phone previously, that gang alone had 10 or 11 assault rifles, AK-47s and M16s. And when you multiply that by 300, you get an idea of the scale of the problem.
Antoinette Shakespeare Dubedad for Nationwide News.
The police have laid prostitution-related charges against prominent attorney-at-law and deputy chairman of the Jamaica Anti-Doping Disciplinary Panel, Lennox Gale. On Tuesday, Gale was listed as a wanted man by investigators from the Organized Crime Investigation Division, OCID. Nationwide News reported that Gale was wanted by the police in connection with a raid carried out by the security forces at a club on Gloucester Avenue in Montego Bay, St. James last Saturday. 8 women were taken into custody during the operation. Head of OCID, Senior Superintendent Clifford Chambers, says the 2 charges laid on Gale include living off the earnings of prostitution.
He was charged yesterday for 2 offenses, and the other one is misleading and deceptive conduct. But it is a continuing investigation. So these charges, there might be more, but these are what he has been charged with so far.
Senior Superintendent Clifford Chambers. Gale was offered station bail in the sum of $400,000. He's to appear in the Corporate Area Criminal Court on May 5.